Hello again. Today I'm going to walk through the Chapter 8 homework exercises. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one of each, usually the first one, and so you can see how you're supposed to do it and how it should look on your page. Some of these are pretty easy, and I really didn't have to do this, but some of them are truth tables and all that kind of fun stuff, and I just want to make sure you know what you're getting into for each of these. My advice to you for this is to watch what you need to. Say you're doing section 8A, you're going to look at page 259 to 261, and there are 6 exercises there. So that's the first homework. So get to the end of that, pause, note somewhere where you are in the video. I'm at minute 12.8 or whatever. And then that way you can go there for the next section. Okay, so anyway, here we go. So in Chapter 8, we're looking at propositional logic, and there's another video, a set of videos for, all the nitty gritty. So this is just for homework. So 8.1 says, I'm going to try to do this so I can leave as much up here as possible. 8.1, number 1, says, identify each of the following statements as a conjunction, disjunction, or conditional. Identify its component statements, indicate the symbol used to represent the connective. Now, they're asking you to do 3 things there. Make sure you do all 3 things so you get all your points, okay? So for number 1, okay, the Democrats raise taxes, and I know I'm not supposed to read what anyway. Okay, that's number 1. The Democrats, I just dropped one. Hold on. Yeah. I know, I make more noises than your grandma, probably the same age as your grandma, actually. Okay, so in this one, we're supposed to identify the following statements as a conjunction, da, da, da. So I'm looking for my word and, okay, so it's a conjunction. And it uses the symbol and, the ampersand, okay? The other thing is identify component statements. Now you can do this in a couple different ways. You can write them out, or if you're, playing on your computer. So this part here, Democrats raise taxes would be my P. And the Republicans cut programs would be my Q. Okay, so that's all you need for number 1. If we're looking at 8.2, what does it say? Translate each of the following statements into symbolic form. Use the letters in parentheses to represent each component statement. Assume that the letters are for positive statements so that a negated statement is indicated by adding the tilde in front of a letter. Okay? So number 1, this is 8.2. Number 1 says, either Herman does his homework or he goofs off. Okay, so I'm supposed to use P and Q, which is good because I like P and Q. Either Herman does his homework or he goofs off. Okay, so I don't see any no's or nots. Okay, so Herman does his homework is my P. he goofs off is my cue, and my here is or. Okay, so the way this is going to look is P or Q. That's the whole thing. Okay, now remember, conjunction is the ampersand. Disjunction, which is the or, is just a lowercase b. It's not a special character. It's not anything weird. It's just a little b. Okay. The hardest one for me, anyway, is the conditional. Making it on the computer, but you know, is, and this is what I use: 2 dashes and the greater than sign. Okay, it gives you an arrow. And then negation is the little tilde. Now, on most computer keyboards, it's that very top, right underneath the escape key. That's where it is. Okay, so you can have fun with that. That's 8.2. 8.3. Indicate which of the following statements are true and which are false. And so you have to do a little bit of manipulation here. And I want to see your work. Okay, don't just give me true or false as an answer. Do these things. Okay. 8.3, number 1. It says, dogs are mammals. Little b, which means or. Snakes are marsupials. I should put that underneath it, but that's okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do is put this in our true and false. Okay, so dogs are mammals is true. Snakes are marsupials is false. True or false equals true. On our truth table, our little bitty truth tables, okay, I hope you've made your little cards and such. But on that line, true or false is false. Is true, sorry. The only time our disjunction is false is when both are false. Okay, not too horrible. 8.4. This one's kind of one of my favorite pieces. It messes people up all the time, but I think it helps us figure things out very nicely. So it says, indicate which of the following symbolized statements are true and which are false. Assume that the variables A, B, and C are true, and that P, Q, and R are false. Okay, so you've got your stuff here. So it's A and P. Okay. And I changed colors, and I know some of you that doesn't make any difference at all to you, and I apologize, but you can see things. A and P, so A's are true, and P's are false. Okay, so true and false is false, because the only time the conjunction is true is when I have 2 trues. Everything else is false, so that's false. Getting there. 8.5 says, turn this into a statement with words. Okay. Now, for homework, you have to do something. Either you have to give us a given, or you have to do something that's patently obvious, like these kind of things. Okay. I'm going to do one like this. Okay, so I'm going to say today is Thursday. That's my given. Okay, so A, I can say yesterday was Wednesday, and I have to say something false. Tomorrow is Saturday. Okay, so yesterday was Wednesday. If today is Thursday, yesterday was Wednesday. That's true. tomorrow is not Saturday, so that's false. It's all good, right? I used all my purple guy for that. That's okay. So the last one in this set is to translate the following statements into symbolic form. Assume that the letters you use stand for positive statements. It means if there's a not or a no in the pieces here, you've got to give it the tilde, okay? And can I put this in there? I think I can. Yeah, we're just going to use a different color. Okay, so this one says, if Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, then the walls must have come tumbling down. So it's a conditional, right? Just put it over here, and then we'll erase this for the next one. Okay. If must. Okay, so if Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, the walls must have come tumbling down. So I have an if, and here's my then. Okay, so if P, then Q. Okay, so then we're going to write it this way, P arrow Q. Okay, so that's how we do those. Now, I want to tell you something that will help you when things get more complex, which will happen pretty quickly here. Wherever in your argument you have the then, draw your little arrow above it, because whatever came before that you have to deal with, and whatever comes after that you have to deal with your variables. But put your arrow there so you know where it goes. Okay, don't get confused that way. Okay, that's the first part. I'm going to erase this stuff and go to, oops, not there. Go to page 271. Okay. 8.7 is going to take us back to 8.3. It says construct a truth table for each of the statements in exercise 8.3. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to 8.3 and we're going to make a truth table. 8.3 is the true and false, dogs and mammals and all that kind of fun stuff. So this is 8.7, number 1, C number 1, and 8.3. Okay, so our argument is dogs are mammals, or snakes are marsupials. Now, it's not much of an argument, but it's one set, one premise, right? So we know that in this case, a couple things here. Okay, we know we have P and we have Q. Okay, I'm going to try to be more consistent with the double line for Q instead of just relying on our colors, because, you know, that's mean. So, make a truth table, okay? So when we make a truth table, we know we're starting with our variables P and Q, okay? And since we only have the 2 variables there, we only need 4 rows. Okay, so we're going to go true, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. And they're always like this. Remember the half and half rule, and this is your guides. So my other piece here is P or Q. Okay, so P or Q, true and true is true, true and false is true, false and true is true, false and false is false. Now, what we want to know is, okay, where does this one go? Okay, so this one is true, right? And this one is false. And so we're going to look, this is the spot for that one. Okay? Not too horrible. First foray into, you know, truth tables. So, woohoo, we lived. Okay. I'm going to do that one. I'm going to do number 2 in 8.8 because it's got a little more oomph to it. Okay, so number 2 says if P then Q, P therefore Q, affirming the antecedent. This is modus ponens, so we already know it's valid, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay, I want you to make sure that you write your argument out this way, down each line, because when you write it out long ways there, you're going to do that in a minute on the top, but when you do it here like that, sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. Okay, so I'm going to do my truth table. I only have 2 variables, so I'm going to do my normal 4 rows, true, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. And it should always, 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 always look like this. Don't try to play with this. Okay, this is the way we get all of the possibilities for these 2 variables. Okay, so my next one, okay, so this is my guide, and then I have my argument. Okay, so I need a if P then Q, P, and I always make sure I know where my conclusion is and put the little therefore above it. But you don't have to, you know, put your conclusion thing up there. I just like to do it. So if P then Q, we know is true, false, true, true. The only one that's false is when the antecedent is true, but the consequent is false. You get false. Okay, so P, we take the same exact guide here and put it over here. So, because whatever our variables are to begin with, that's how they always are wherever they're found in the argument. Can't change that. Okay, and then Q, true, false, true, false. Now, we're supposed to say whether or not it's valid. Okay, so how do we know? We look only at the false conclusions, okay, and only at the premises that go with it. Okay, so that's a false conclusion, and this is a false conclusion, okay, because this is my conclusion here. So if my false conclusion has all true premises, my argument is invalid. In this case, both of these have at least one false premise, so they're okay, and this is valid. Okay? Not too horrible. A little bit weird, but not too horrible. Okay? So, pause if you need to write things down. Now, you're going to do a few of the ones there in 8.8. They get more and more complicated as we go along. For the first round, you're only going to do the ones that have 2 variables. So I'll come back to this in a minute and do a 3 variable one. In 8.9, we have all kinds of fun here. We have basically word problems. Don't freak out. It's okay. So we're going to have to mark these up. So I'm going to take a second here and write this down. Let's see if I've got. Okay, we're going to look at number 3. Okay. 8.9, number 3. Okay. Either Jake is the plumber, or Jake is the carpenter. I know, you're all in your head saying, no, Jake works for State Farm. Okay. Jake is not the carpenter. So, Jake is the plumber. Okay, there's my argument. And we're going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to look at periods, okay? Okay. So I have a not, and I have an or. I have 3 different pieces. So this is a syllogism, but we're going to have some fun with it. So Jake is the plumber is my P. And I go and I find the other places where Jake is the plumber shows up. Okay. And then Jake is the carpenter is my Q. I'm going to give that 2 lines. Call it Q. Same thing here. Okay, so I have my outline. Okay, so my argument is P or Q, not Q, therefore P. Okay, this looks very familiar, right? This is a disjunctive syllogism. It's just how it works. So I'm going to do my whole thing here. So I'm going to do, I have P and Q. I have P and Q. True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. Same way, all the time. Okay, that's my guide. It's not part of my argument, but it's going to help me put my argument together. So this is my argument. P or Q, not Q, therefore P. Okay? So P or Q, true and true or true is true, true or false is true, false or true is true, false or false is our only false. Okay? Now, for the not Q, you're going to look at Q and you're going to play opposite day. Okay, so this is false, true, false, true. Not so bad. And then for P, because it's a plain P, we're going to use the exact same things we have here. Because remember, they stay the same. Okay, so this time I have another 2. Yes, I have another 2 false conclusions, so I have to look at those. I have 1 false premise here, I have 1 false premise here, so this again is a valid argument. We knew that going in because this is a disjunctive syllogism, but this is why it works. Okay, so keep that in mind. So far so good, right? Okay. This is the end of that second, that's 8B homework. So I'm going to erase this and I'm going to go on to 8C. I know, move over a little bit more, huh, so you can see this better. Okay, so back to 8.8. And time for a 3 variable. Okay, so this is 8.8 for 8C. Number, let's see if we can do a fun one. Ooh, we have A, B's, and C's, P, B, Q. Ooh, okay, let's do number 13. I'm going to hold this up here, I think, so I can get to it. So this is our, it's already been translated. 13 is what I'm going to do here. And my argument, which is given to me, P or Q, then P and Q. We're going to have all kinds of fun with this one. I think this is right, 13, P and Q. Therefore, P or Q. This one's going to be fun. Now, he was nice to us and gave us just those 2 guys so we can play with those a little bit. So anyway, normal, normal. I'm going to do, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. I want one that has an R in it. Oh, let's do 16. Sorry. And yeah, we're going to do 16, even though that one's kind of complex. I want one with an R. And 16 is all kinds of fun anyway. Okay. If P, then Q, then if P, then R. No, Q, not R. So, that could be interesting. Let's see if I have that right. P to Q, P to R, P to Q. Okay. So I have 3 variables. I'm going to need 8 rows, so I'm going to mark this up pretty good. So I'm going to start with P and Q and R. Yes. And then in my guide, I need to kind of get to the point where I can just have one thing to do there. And we talked about this in the videos. So I want to have a truth value for this and a truth value for that so that I can do it out there. So if P then Q is going to be one of my guides, and if P then R is going to be one of my guides, and then I'm covered, right? Okay, so that's my guide. Okay, and then I'm going to do, and I use these brackets so I can make sure I'm getting the right information in the right spot. You don't have to use them, but I need all the help I can get to keep my pieces together. And R, therefore, P. Okay, so there's my top line. Now I just got to do the work. Lots and lots of work. Okay. I'm going to go. That's going to help me in a little bit because once I get way over there, I have a hard time finding things. False, 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 false. Because I have 3 variables, I need 8 rows. 2 to the 3rd power is 8. And I'm going to use my half and half rule here as well. 4 truths, 4 falses. Q is going to go 2 by 2. And then R is going to go 1 by 1. Okay, not so bad so far. Yes, we hope. If P, then Q. Okay, so I'm going to look at this one is these 2. Okay, if P, then Q. We're going to go this way, so we don't have to worry about going backwards or anything. So if true, then true is true. True to true. These are my two falses. The rest of these are all true because they start with the false. I know that sounds really weird, but that's how it works. Okay? And then if P, then R, I'm going to look at this one and this one. And again, they're going to go this way. Okay, so P is my antecedent. So if true, then true. If true, then false. True, then true. True, then false. Again, I have 4 falses at the beginning, so these are all true. So far, so good? Not so bad, at least. Okay. So now I have my first actual premise, and I'm going to use the truth values for each of those parentheses and then turn them into a condition. Okay, so a little complex, but we've already done the pieces, so we're going to do the last thing. Okay, so if true, false, true, true, and then all of these are true. Okay, so we've worked our falses down to 1 here, so that's really interesting. Okay, not P to Q. And because this is on the outside of the parentheses, we take this particular truth value and flip it. Okay, so instead of true, true, false, false, we're going to go false, false, true, true, and then all of these are false. Okay, not so horrible yet. Our not R, again, we're going to do opposite day. And since we're true, false, here we're going to be false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true. And then the P is the exact same as it is here. Okay, so we have 4 trues and 4 falses. So we have to look at, for validity, we have to look at this whole bottom piece, because we have 4 false conclusions. Yeah, yes. Okay, so in each of these, I have at least 1 false premise. So once again, this is a valid argument. You can tell I did not write these arguments because most of mine end up being invalid, but this one's valid, so that's how that works. Okay? Like I said, it's a little complex, but when you break it apart and do it step by step, you get to the end, everything's glorious. Okay? I want to do one more I want to do 8.9 for 3 variables, and then this particular homework thing will be done. Some of the arguments in the word problem section start out being feeling very complex. And I will tell you, the more the complex it sounds, it probably is just a 2 variable guide. We're going to do number 1, okay, and because it has 3 variables, and it's not too bad. Okay, 8.9, this is for 8C, and we're going to do number 1. Okay, and here's usually how I do it. So, remember, let's see, did they tell you? For each of the following arguments, translate into symbols, construct a truth table, determine its validity. Okay. So, my first one says, if there is no rain soon, the crops will die. So the first phrase I run into is rain soon, okay? That's my P, okay? And the crops will die. Is my Q, okay? And then if the crops die, there will be no food for the coming winter. Food for winter is my R. Now, we always start with positive statements, okay? You'll notice there are no no's in here, but in our phrasing in the book, yes, we have no's, so we have to be careful. Okay, so I have 3 pieces here again, no syllogism. If there is no rain soon, the crops will die. So if there is no rain soon, then the crops will die, okay? Not P, then Q, okay? Yay, one thing down. Okay, if the crops die, okay, then there will be no food for winter, okay? So we're adding the no's in with the little negations, okay? The crops will not die, so not Q. Therefore, there will be rain soon. Therefore, P. Okay, so there's our, ta-da, is that right there? Okay, we have 4, it's not a syllogism, sorry. Okay, so we have our argument. I think I can put it all over there. I might erase some of that stuff. So I'm going to do normal, P, Q, R. Okay, now I don't have any parentheses, but I do have negations used inside with conditionals. So I'm going to make lines for P and R as negations so that when I get to this part, I can just do it. Okay, and I'm going to switch this over. Okay, P, Q, R, and I said I'm going to do not P, and I'm going to do not R. I can do not Q on its own over here because it doesn't have anything else with it. I know, I'm setting you up here, huh? Okay, so that's my guide. And the rest of it is my argument, right? So not P, then Q. Q, then not R. Not Q, therefore P. Okay, that's my top. That's my top line. I'm going to work through this and we'll see how we do. Okay, again, 4 by 4 because we have 8. Helps if I could draw a straight line, but ain't happening anytime soon. Okay, so half and half. My P is 4 by 4. My Q is 2 by 2. And my R is 1 by 1. Okay, and then our not P is opposite day for P's. So 4 by 4, but false first. Okay, and not R, same thing, opposite day. False, true, false, true, false, true, false, true. Okay, I have my guide. So now I can look at where these things are. So I'm going to do not P to Q. So I'm going to start here and then go to Q. I know, kind of weird. But so these first ones, my not P, are all false. So all of those are going to be true because with my conditional, if it starts with a false, the whole statement's true. So then I'm going to go here and go, oh, what do I do? Oh, I'm going this way. Okay. Sometimes you just gotta do things. Did I do that right? Yes, okay. So now I am doing here, true to true is true, true to true is true, true to false is false, true to false is false. Okay. Crazy, but fun. Q to not R, a little easier because we're going to go left to right and it's not quite so daunting that way. Okay, so Q, you see Q to not R. So true to false is false, true to true is true, false to false is true, false to true is true, true to false, true to true, false to false, false to true. Okay, not horrible. Okay, not Q is going to be our opposite day for our double. So false, false, true, true, false, false, true, true. Regular P, 4 by 4. And again, I got to look at the whole bottom here. So this one, I have at least one. This one has one. This one has one. And this one has one. So again, we have another valid argument. Okay? Now, make sure, when you're doing this, I think I put some helps for you up so that you have you have the little spreadsheet things to make your charts with. Makes everything so much easier to look at, to see the differences, and for me to grade. You know, you want to get all the points you can. So I use a spreadsheet and just use it as a chart. You know, don't activate any of those cells, but it works really well because it keeps everything at the same width. Okay, so this is 8C, number 1. So I hope that's helpful. You know how to get a hold of me. If you have questions, you have my email.